Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and let's keep that hype going from the new Pokemon Sword and Shield trailer by talking about Dynamax details. So check out the all-new features that will make Pokemon battles even more exciting. Now, honestly, my thoughts on Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing is that they are going to be more exciting and more balanced than Z-moves and Mega Evolution. Z-moves, they had this like really cool upside for crazy gimmicks and combos, but overall, most people hated them and they weren't really that great for competitive, and you also couldn't do as many fun things as you wanted with them because you couldn't get the full effects of a lot of status moves. There was that dedication, it used up an item, it just kind of really didn't work out. Now, Mega Evolution was really cool, but like half of the Megas weren't really that viable, and while you could do some fun combos and it was pretty exciting, I think that it was rather unsuccessful in the end, and once again, didn't really add too much to the balance of Pokemon. This is trying to like capture the cool aspects of both of them, but also make it to where a battle can't be completely destroyed by a well-timed Dynamax or an exploitative kind of setup, because it only lasts for 3 turns, and then the additional effects that you get from the moves, so let's get into it. The Dynamax phenomenon not only makes Pokemon huge, it can also give them a boost in power. Dynamaxing your Pokemon can sway the course of battle. Max moves that only Dynamax Pokemon can use aren't just powerful either, they all have impressive additional effects. Now, this really isn't new information. We already knew about the new effects from when Dynamax was introduced, like the Max Strike and also the Grass move, because like, you get like some weird things happening going on. But this is interesting. Only Dynamax Pokemon can use. My thought was, what happens if you Mimic or Mirror Move a Max move? Does it fail unless your Pokemon is Dynamaxed? Or what happens if you Mimic, copy a move, and then Dynamax? Do you then get that type for the Max move, or does it take Mimic and then you only get Max Guard? I don't know, so we get a few more details like that. However, we can just go to Cerebi. I don't really like using Cerebi anymore because of all that drama that happened a while ago, but it's the only place I could find that actually gives us the extra details. But before we get into that, I want to talk about Max Guard. So even if an opponent uses a move like Protect, a Max move will still blast through it and deal some damage. I pretty much expected this. I think this was also like confirmed at the E3 demos and stuff. So it does work like Z moves, that you still get some chip damage in there. You can't fully protect from it, but also you do get the effects of the Max move, which still makes it a pretty solid move overall. But then this. All status moves used by a Dynamax Pokemon become Max Guard, which can even protect other Max moves. Now this is really interesting because moves like Taunt, either moves that are supposed to hurt your opponent or buff yourself, they all become Max Guard, and then that can cancel out the effect of an opponent's Max move. So this is going to be like where the plays are made, but at the same time it seems like it's going to be really predictable as well, and whoever's like going for that Dynamax tempo might go for it, but then you maybe could fake it out, bait it out. I still don't know what happens like if you switch out a Dynamax Pokemon. Are you like committed to those entire 3 turns? Can you switch them back in and then get all that effects stuff going on? I feel like that information should be known from the demo. 1 second. Yeah, I couldn't find any information. That's weird. There's probably some people in the comments section that have like heard something from someone or saw something on Twitter, but overall, I guess we could use slightly more information about Dynamaxing, but this is the big one. Dynamaxing and held items. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, you'll be able to Dynamax any Pokemon from the Galar region so long as you have the Dynamax band. There's no need to have the Pokemon hold a special item. This means that you can choose which one of your Pokemon to Dynamax depending on what's happening in the battle. You could even have your Pokemon hold items that boost their offenses so they can unleash max moves that are even more powerful. Questions? What happens when you use a choice move? I'm imagining since you're getting a new set of moves, it resets the choice, and then you're just stuck on that max move until it wears off. That seems like a pretty crazy power spike or something like that, but also doesn't really seem that good, and that's going to make competitive really wacky. Like if a Pokemon has an item that it almost certainly needs, then you'd be like, well, he's most likely not going to Dynamax. Unless they do like some kind of reverse triple prediction anti-read meta shenanigans or something like that. But overall, I like this idea. And I think this is also what makes it better than Z moves, better than Mega Evolutions, because the battles become so much more dynamic and fun this way, and we saw it in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Depending on which Pokemon your opponent Mega Evolves, changes the entire battle if they have more than one Pokemon that can potentially Mega Evolve, and since there's no items, no abilities, there's not like going to be something that's super obvious, or you see a Life Orb. So there's a Gengar, it uses a Shadow Ball, and then it loses some health. oh, he has a Life Orb, he's not going to Mega Evolve, that means it's the other Pokemon. In Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, you effectively have to wait until they use their Mega, and then you can react around it. So if they have an Aerodactyl and an Alakazam on their team, things could get really crazy. That is it going to be the Mega Aerodactyl for the pretty much uncounterable Stealth Rocks? And if you see that, well then that means it's just an Alakazam, and just an Alakazam isn't really that threatening. 120 speed, you can either deal with it with a Doug Trio, or also just bring in like a Mega Gengar, maybe just a regular Aerodactyl, and start destroying that thing. But if it's the Mega Alakazam, then that means you have a chance or an opportunity to stop that Stealth Rocks coming from the Aerodactyl, and if they have other Pokemon on the team that can Mega Evolve, things could just happen, and the battle just changes up massively from that. So that was actually one thing really cool that I like to see. And then now we get to bring that into Dynamaxing. So people were wondering, like, does your Pokemon does the held item have an effect? You know, is the held item disabled? Can you just not have a held item if you want your Dynamax Pokemon to Dynamax? But since any Pokemon can do it at any time, having a diverse team is more encouraged now more than ever. That way you have like that switch into the Dynamax, get those field conditions that you want. And going back to like the move effects, it seems like weather is going to be back in a really fun kind of way, because instead of dedicating a Drizzle, Pelipper, or Politoed and making that one of your 6 Pokemon and then potentially reducing the power of your team so you can go into some kind of rain or weather setup, you can now just carry it on any water Pokemon in a way that also isn't Rain Dance, which really gets rare amounts of usage. You just use power, you get rain, and then you can use that to kind of buff everything up. So fire, sunlight, water, rain makes sense. We have electric terrain on electric, grassy terrain on grass, misty terrain on fairy. So all of these different moves have all of these different effects that can really shape how you want your Pokemon battle to go. I think it's going to be really funny if like your opponent wants an electric terrain, but you end up with a grassy terrain. However, you want rain, and then they have the harsh sunlight. So like Dynamax wars might end with both of you guys getting half of the effects you want, or trying to like negate it out on a max guard or something like that. But this is also what I was talking about, you know, max strike lowers the opponent's speed stat. So we already knew about that. However, that's really powerful. That if you know you KO with 1 or 2 maxims, like what happens if you max guard on their first turn. So you cancel out whatever max shenanigans they're trying to pull. Second turn, you score KO by using one of the other moves, like max flare. You set up a sunlight, you get that going, and then on your last one, you lower their speed stat on the max strike. So if they were sweeper, they hit you, you survive because you're Dynamaxed, and then you lower their speed, so now you're faster, you can finish them off as a normal Pokemon, and you get like so much crazy benefit off of that. And then what are they going to do to counter that? Now, I'm also guessing that Dynamax is going to be well balanced enough to where if you see your opponent Dynamax, you don't have to immediately Dynamax, and that Dynamax Pokemon aren't going to like non-stop one-shot. So apparently the power varies depending on the moves, but from what I've seen, you know, it's like 110, 120, 130 base power. So there's survivable moves, and as long as you're only gaining health when you Dynamax, that means your power offset is going to be similar to like Mega Evolving or having like a choice band level of damage or a choice item level of damage, and then just having that for a couple of turns. But it's mostly about being unkillable and then being able to kind of set up the status that you want. But we also have like Sandstorm, you can raise your defense, you can raise your attack. Looks like the Cerebi, oh yeah, there it is, raises attack, but also raises the attack of all allies. So I'm wondering if that's what happens with Max Strike, lowers both opponents' speed, boosts both allies' speed. So we got some cool things, and then there's also the Gigantamax moves, so we could either do damage and set up a Stealth Rocks, or we can have Corviknight, and then you can do damage and remove a Stealth Rocks and remove all of the field conditions, which was also showed off in the trailer, which I think is pretty cool. And then new abilities will be appearing in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Obvious. But this is worth a video on its own. I've already said that. Like, Galarian Weezing. There's a million things you can do and say about this Pokemon, but we get to see some really weird interactions. Galarian Weezing will fill the area with neutralizing gas when it enters the battlefield. Once the Pokemon with neutralizing gas leaves the battlefield, the abilities of the other Pokemon will be activated again. Now, the way that they say again, it makes it sound like that Pokemon hits the field and then, or the ability is activating as though the Pokemon hit the field. So what happens if Arcanine comes in, it uses Intimidate? You switch in your Weezing, everything else is negated, Weezing dies. Does that mean your opponent can get a second Intimidate? Like, this has a lot of potential to be broken for shutting down an opponent and then buffing yourself with certain Pokemon like the Regigigas or the Slacking. That's what a lot of people are saying. Still need to see if those Pokemon are in Galar, but overall, is Slacking confirmed? Because then that's where things actually get scary. Okay, not confirmed yet, and again, this is more probably something you're going to hear when I talk about the video, just like the separate Galarian Weezing video, because Galarian Weezing can only exist in Galar, which means Slacking is not going to be in, and then for the next games, we'll have Slacking in, but no Weezing, so those shenanigans shouldn't exist, but there's still a lot of crazy things that people are talking about that seem very likely, but it seems like it can also backfire on you pretty hard, but that's also really weird that, like, Intimidate activates again. So that's something. However, that could also work for beneficial abilities or other abilities, not just Intimidate, and that actually might be like a thing that if you just have Weezing come in, like you get the benefit of ability. I feel like there's something. I just can't remember it because I haven't put that much thought into it because I just read this right here. So Weezing explodes, and then you get an ability to activate twice or something like that. So that's something to keep in mind. And then here are 2 new items, Room Service and Eject Pack. Again, these are worth videos on their own. So mostly it's just about the Dynamaxing held items. We got that information. We also get to see this other stuff going through. It's combos. It's crazy. It's more information. There's a couple more details I would like to see, like what are Dynamax levels? What are, like, is it just hit points? I need that confirmation in my head. And then how much hit points seems to be 50%. Other Gigantamax Pokemon and stuff like that. But overall, it looks like things are going to be pretty crazy. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.